Hey guys, today we're working underwater on an emergency job at a major US seaport. This tugboat's thruster came to a violent halt while assisting a cargo ship with docking, and now they're losing tens of thousands of dollars daily while dead in the water. Join us as we dive down to uncover what happened and see how we got this tugboat back underway. We're at the port and we're on board the disabled tug, but there's something in the air. That's not smoke or silica dust. My friends, it's snowing corn. The bulk carrier these tugboats just brought in is named Gold Dust, and it's living up to its name because it just arrived with 60 million pounds of cornmeal, and as the huge bags of cornmeal are being transferred to these semi-trailers, corn dust is kicking up in the wind and creating a low-level hazard to our diving operations. It's causing moderate throat and eye irritation, and that's exactly what you don't want before a dive. There is a brief window of fresh air between loads, and you can now clearly see the two tugboats. The tugboat up against the wall has a completely disabled starboard Z-drive, and if you don't know what that is, I'll explain in a minute. Our first diver is in the water, and I'm going to hand him down the camera so you can see firsthand what we're up against. Here it is, guys. A diving nightmare just materialized right before our eyes. A large truck tire got sucked into the quart nozzle of this tugboat's starboard Z-drive, and now we have to get it out of there. To understand how incredibly difficult this challenge is, I created an image using Google Gemini to show you. So Gemini helped me create this image, which puts us behind the vessel, facing forward, slightly off to the starboard side. So port's on our left, starboard's on our right, and you can clearly see this tugboat has two separate propulsion units. And these are extremely powerful and remarkably unique. These are Z-drive azimuth thrusters. Azimuthing means they can rotate 360 degrees on a horizontal axis, and that's how the vessel maneuvers. So the entire lower unit that the propeller is inside of and the propeller itself rotate together and can thrust water in any direction. And this cylindrical shaped part of the lower unit, which the propeller is inside of, is called the quart nozzle. Encapsulating the propellers in a quart nozzle dramatically boosts both pressure and efficiency. Think of it like the difference between a regular fan and a leaf blower. Without the quart nozzle, valuable energy would be lost in the form of vortices swirling off the propeller tips. Now that you know what kind of thruster we're working on, I'll show you why a truck tire getting sucked into one is such a complex problem. In between the inside of the quart nozzle and the tip of the propeller, there's only about a half-inch gap. And of course, this is where our truck tire is lodged. And it's not just pinched in this half-inch gap, but in some areas, the tire is actually twisted into a figure 8 and folded in half. So in some areas, there's as much as 4 inches of tire compressed into this half-inch gap. Hopefully, you now have a good understanding of what we're up against and we're ready to start working. But remember, we can't go down here and just start aimlessly hacking away. This propeller and quart nozzle costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, so we don't want to scratch or gouge it at all. Our diver already secured a downline that goes from the seawall down to where we're working so we can easily send him down tools. We have pneumatic and hydraulic grinders and of course some good old hand tools and elbow grease, so let's head over to the dive shack and see what he wants down there. The first thing we tried was cutting some of the bigger pieces of tire that were bulging off of the sides of the propeller using the hydraulic grinder equipped with a plywood blade. This idea sounded good on paper, but other than creating a bunch of microplastic, not much has happened. The diver's been holding up the grinder for a few hours in the same spot, and he's only got about 3 inches into the tire so far. This is definitely not our solution. Next, we went over to the downline and sent down a pneumatic-powered grinder equipped with a metal cutting wheel because the tire has reinforced steel cable in it, so we have to frequently swap back and forth from cutting rubber to cutting metal. Diver 1 needs a break because he's been down there all morning, so we're getting him out and I'm next in rotation. It just started snowing corn again, so perfect timing because I need a break from coughing this crap up. There's tiny pieces of corn skin scratching the inside of my throat and irritating my eyes, but I try not to think about it and just focus at the task in hand as I climb down the ladder and mentally prepare to enter this nightmare. Down here inside the quart nozzle, we're kind of juggling a lot of stuff. The thin yellow poly rope is our downline, and using carabiners we have different tools hooked on there. The chain is our come along, which we'll be using at the end, and the solid red CP hose is our air line, which is powering our pneumatic grinder. Looks like Diver 1 dropped the pin to this shackle. Not even sure why this was sent down here, but I'll probably get blamed for that now, so that's great. We also have the hydraulics down here, which you can identify as these two black hoses. I don't plan on using the hydraulics, but it's good to have as a backup. First thing I'm going to do is go over to our downline and disconnect the carabiner that goes to our pneumatic grinder. This grinder has a diamond wheel on it, so let's see what that does. Diver 1 got a pretty decent cut started, but it created this flap that's now blocking right where I need to see and the guards hitting it. You can't depressurize pneumatic tools while in the water or it'll ruin them. So the tool's hot and I have to carefully move the guard and make sure I don't bump the trigger or I say bye-bye to my fingers. I ducked my head under the flap to keep the flap out of the way and so I could use both hands on the grinder, but I instantly found out that that just diverts all the bubbles coming off the grinder directly into my face and I can't see a thing. So I took this yellow ratchet strap, tossed it over the propeller, and hooked it onto the leading edge of the quart nozzle. From there, draped it under the tire flap, and then loosely choked it around the chain come along. This way, the strap was now holding the flap up out of my way. It seems like I was off to a strong start, but the grinding wheel kept getting pinched and slowing down or just completely stopping. After holding the wheel up for what felt like an hour, I checked my cut and it hadn't progressed much, and I was now dead in line with the thick area of tread. It is possible for the grinder to cut through the thinnest area of the tire, which is about a 1/4 inch thick, but there's no way we're cutting through this treaded area. Frustrated and kind of over it, I snapped the pneumatic carabiner back on the downline and whipped out the old Spyderco dive knife. Now, any diver will tell you there's no sharper, more reliable dive knife than a Spyderco. Literally every diver has one, usually two. But damn, I didn't realize it would rip through this truck tire like butter. I kind of froze in disbelief for a second, staring at the massive cut, and even stuck my hand in there to make sure I wasn't seeing things. I just got more done in the last 5 seconds than we did in the last few hours. It's game on now. There's still metal wire throughout the tire, so I have to bounce back and forth from grinding the wire, then ripping through with the Spyderco, then grinding the wire, then ripping through some more. And then sure enough, before I knew it, I was down to the last couple inches of our first piece. My trusty Spyderco ripped through those last couple inches of tread no problemo, and I'm getting ready to head back to the ladder with my trophy. We continued the dive rotation, doing most of the cutting with sharp knives, but nothing ripped through like that Spyderco. We sliced the bulk of the rubber down on one side of the propeller, cutting the tire down as low as we could to where the tire was pinched. Then, we took the chain come along and slowly peeled that evil tire out piece by piece.